This video is sponsored by War Thunder. Parker's Pit Tragedy. On January 25, 1986, four experienced cavers, Brandon, Jacob, Spencer, and Jimmy, arrived at the entrance of Parker's Pit, a well-known vertical cave system in the American Midwest. With its steep drops and unforgiving limestone walls, Parker's Pit required precise rigging, expert rope work, and a mindset prepared for anything. Even a small mistake could have devastating consequences. The group believed they were ready. They had proper gear, knowledge of vertical systems, and the confidence that comes from past success. The first major challenge was the upper bound, a vertical drop of just over 22 feet. While not extremely deep, the danger came from what lay below. A fall onto hard limestone from that height could be lethal. Jacob and Brandon made the descent using correct technique and equipment, reaching the bottom without issue. They waited for the others, unaware that something had already gone terribly wrong. Jimmy began his descent using a common friction device designed to slow and control movement on the rope. But when setting it up, he skipped a critical step. The rope passed through the carabiner and over the brake bar, but it was not looped back through properly. Without that final connection, the system provided no friction and no control at all. As soon as he leaned back to descend, the rope slipped straight through. He dropped the full 22 feet in an instant, landing hard on the limestone floor while his friends watched helplessly. When they rushed to his side, they expected to find a broken body. But somehow, against every expectation, Jimmy survived the fall. Shaken and visibly in shock, but conscious and able to move. It was nothing short of a miracle. This should have been the moment the group turned around. But instead of exiting the cave and seeking help, they made a decision that would push them even further toward disaster. They chose to continue. Deeper into Parker's Pit, the cave became more demanding, leading them to one of its most feared sections, a twisted, narrow passage known as the Z-bend. This formation forces cavers to contort their bodies into unnatural shapes, crawling through stone that barely leaves enough room to breathe. Many have described it as the closest thing to being buried alive. Jacob entered feet first, lying on his stomach. He struggled through and made it to the other side, warning the others just how tight it really was. Jimmy followed behind, but chose to enter on his back, also feet first. That single decision would nearly cost him his life. As he moved forward, the rock pressed against his chest and sides. His breathing became shallow. The further he went, the tighter the space became, until he found himself completely stuck. He couldn't move forward, and the walls behind him made retreat impossible. The limestone held him firmly in place, while panic began to take over. With every breath, his body expanded slightly, making the passage even tighter. His muscles tensed, and the fear in his voice made it clear. He was in serious trouble. The others reacted quickly. Spencer approached from behind, while Jacob moved through the tight space ahead. But helping someone in a passage that barely fits one person is a dangerous task. Every movement was exhausting and slow, scraping skin against jagged rock and straining to find even the smallest bit of space. Jimmy's breathing grew weaker, and his skin turned pale. He was running out of time. Working together, inch by inch, the others managed to shift his body. It was a painful, claustrophobic rescue, but after a final push, he slipped through the tightest point of the Z-bend. His strength was gone, but he was alive. I wanted to take this segment to announce today's sponsor, War Thunder, which makes videos like these possible. If you don't know, War Thunder is the most comprehensive vehicle combat game ever made, and it's also available for free on PC, consoles, and mobile devices. You can choose from over 2,500 tanks, planes, helicopters, and ships of 10 major nations, ranging from biplanes and armored cars of the 1920s to the fighter jets and main battle tanks of today. The vehicles in this game look super detailed, and the realistic graphics and authentic sound effects place you right at the helm of the most powerful war machines of our time. Honestly, if you're into military history, this is the best game you can play. My favorite feature is the in-depth customization system, with countless camouflages, historical markings, and decorations for all types of vehicles, including community-created ones. You can join the 95 million player community in epic PvP battles by using my link in the description or in the pinned comment. If you've never played before, or you haven't played for at least 6 months, and you're on PC or console, then when you sign up using my link, you'll get a massive bonus pack with multiple premium vehicles, an exclusive vehicle decorator called the Eagle of Valor, 100,000 silver lions, and 7 days of premium account. However, this bonus is only available for a limited time, so you have to be quick. Thanks to War Thunder for sponsoring this video. Tongue River Cave. On June 2nd, 2004, 9 teenagers decided to explore Tongue River Cave in Bighorn National Forest, just west of Dayton, Wyoming, expecting a quick and fun adventure. Among them were Barry Blaha and Dana Herbert, both 16 years old. Neither they nor their friends had any real caving experience. They brought flashlights, spare batteries, and a couple of camping headlamps. nothing designed for serious cave exploration. The cave greeted them with wide passages and smooth walking terrain. It felt more like a hike than anything dangerous. They laughed, wandered off in different directions, and treated the place like a playground. But as they went deeper, things changed. Walls were cracked and worn down by water. Loose stones scattered the ground. It was a warning only trained cavers would have recognized. Barry spotted something unusual, a narrow crack off the main tunnel, barely visible in the shadows. It wasn't on any map. It looked untouched. He and Dana saw it as an opportunity. While the rest of the group explored nearby chambers, the two of them crawled inside. The deeper they went, the tighter the passage became. They were soon crawling on hands and knees, then flattening their bodies to squeeze forward. The rock pressed against their arms and chests. At one point, they had to exhale completely just to slide another few inches forward. Barry reached a tight constriction he couldn't pass. He should have turned around, but instead, he tried to clear the way by removing loose rocks. He managed to move one arm and picked up a stone the size of a softball. Using it as a makeshift hammer, he started smashing at the rock ahead of him. Every strike sent vibrations through the narrow tunnel. He didn't realize the ceiling above him was already fractured. Every blow weakened the structure. Then it happened. A deep cracking sound echoed through the passage. A massive boulder, later estimated at over 300 pounds, broke loose and fell behind Dana. The entire tunnel shook violently. A cloud of dust and debris filled the space, and when it cleared, Barry and Dana realized the horrible truth. They were trapped. The boulder had sealed the passage behind them completely. Barry was still jammed in the tightest section ahead, and Dana was now wedged between his legs and the collapsed rock wall. They turned off their flashlights to save power, and the darkness became absolute. Their friends tried desperately to move the boulder, digging and pulling at the rock, but it was no use. The stone may as well have been part of the mountain itself. Realizing the severity of the situation, several of them ran back through the cave and made the call for help. Rescue crews from Sheridan County responded immediately, bringing specialized cave equipment, winches, hydraulic tools, and trained personnel. The passage was so narrow that only one rescuer at a time could access the site. Every tool had to be carried deep into the cave by hand, and every movement risked triggering another collapse. Inside the tunnel, Barry and Dana were fighting a different kind of battle. The stone pressed into their ribs and shoulders. Breathing became shallow. Their limbs began to go numb. But the worst part was the psychological toll. The silence was suffocating. They didn't know how long they had been trapped. They didn't know if anyone would reach them in time. The rescuers worked for hours. Progress was slow and dangerous. Finally, they managed to position a winch system at the collapse site. With careful coordination, they began pulling the boulder back, inch by inch. One wrong move could make everything worse. Eventually, the stone shifted just enough. Barry and Dana were pulled from the tunnel, their bodies stiff and sore, but alive. Their return through the cave was slow and painful. When they finally emerged from the cave at around 10:30 p.m., nearly 8 hours had passed since they first entered. Mushroom Farm Cave. On December 18, 2004, Jean-Luc José Veres, a 48-year-old caretaker from the village of Mataron in southern France, quietly left his home without saying anything to his wife or son. For months, he had battled a deep depression. That night, he got into his Land Rover with a bottle of whiskey and a pocket full of sleeping pills and drove toward the limestone hills just outside the village. His destination was an abandoned mushroom farm, carved into a vast underground tunnel system originally excavated as a chalk mine. The labyrinth stretched over 8 kilometers beneath the hills, twisting corridors, blind turns, and dead ends that hadn't seen human activity in years. Jean-Luc parked at the entrance, left the driver's door open, and walked inside with a flashlight in one hand and whiskey in the other. He had no map, no plan, no intention of coming back. Within minutes, he was lost. The tunnels looked identical in every direction. When he tried to turn back, he realized he had no idea which way was out. He wandered further in, turning at random. Eventually, the batteries in his flashlight began to fade. The beam flickered, then died completely, leaving him in total darkness. The cave held a constant chill, around 54 degrees Fahrenheit, cold enough to make him shiver, but not enough to kill. His sense of direction vanished, and he had no idea what time it is. There was no day or night, just endless darkness. Each tunnel felt the same. Every wall felt familiar, even when it wasn't. At first, he tried to keep track of where he'd been, but soon, even that fell apart. And as that mental compass collapsed, panic set in. He shouted for help, but the cave swallowed his voice. By the third day, the situation had turned critical. He had drunk the whiskey, but not taken the sleeping pills. He was dehydrated, starving, and utterly alone. Eventually, he found droplets of water falling from the cave ceiling and drank what he could catch on his tongue. When that wasn't enough, He sucked moisture straight from the limestone walls. For food, he scraped at the floor and chewed on clay. He gnawed on pieces of rotting wood left behind by workers. It was barely digestible, but it kept his stomach from tearing itself apart. He found old plastic tarps and wrapped them around himself for warmth, crawling into corners to rest. But sleep was chaotic. Sometimes he would wake up convinced days had passed. Other times, he would wander for hours in a fog, unsure whether he was awake or dreaming. His mind began to fracture. He heard voices that weren't there. He thought he saw faint lights in the distance. But sometimes he also found himself drifting into calm. He would sing quietly, letting the echo of his own voice comfort him. By the fourth week, his body had wasted away. He had lost nearly a third of his weight. His beard was long and wild. His feet were cut and calloused. His nails were broken and dirty. Then, on January 21st, 2005, 34 days after he first disappeared, 3 teenagers exploring the entrance of the cave stumbled across his Land Rover. The door was still open. Alarmed, they contacted the police. A search team entered the tunnels with proper gear and powerful lights. After 90 minutes of searching, just 600 feet from the entrance, they found Jean-Luc curled in a corner. He was pale, skeletal, and barely able to speak, but he was alive. Rescuers carried him out and rushed him to the hospital. Doctors were stunned. Despite dehydration and starvation, he had no lasting injuries. Shout out to War Thunder again for sponsoring today's video. Make sure to check out War Thunder now for free on PC, PlayStation, Xbox, or on mobile, and use my links in the pinned comment or video description to register. Those of you who are new or haven't played for 6 months will also receive a massive bonus pack across PC and consoles, including multiple premium vehicles and other awesome rewards. But don't wait. This offer is available for a limited time only, so make sure not to miss it.